Good evening and welcome to a special Selectmen's meeting for October 30th, the town of Acton. First item on the agenda is a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, motion to go into public hearing?
I move that we go into public hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor? Okay, the reason of this public hearing is we've had a couple of folks send us in some emails requesting that the Board of Selectmen look into putting in an ordinance about fireworks in the town of Acton. Since they have become legal in the state, they have some issues with it. So for the purpose of tonight's meeting is just to hear from the public, for or against, and then we'll take that information. We'll do some more research as to other towns that have them. We have some here. Some towns don't have them. Some towns have partial where you can only use it on certain days of the year. Some towns like Sanford, you're not allowed at all. And then they went and built a brand new fireworks store. So we're just looking for information from folks tonight. I'll read you the two letters we got, and then anybody that's for or against that would like to come up and speak, we need to hear from the public as far as whether we should go forward with this. To whom it may concern, I have lived on Horn Pond well over a quarter of a century. 2 years ago, the state of Maine legalized fireworks. Things on this body of water have not been the same since this passed. In my opinion, people that don't live here year-round, as well as a few that do, have no concern for anyone. There is absolutely no place for full-blown, obnoxiously loud displays of dangerous fire and sparks that terrorize all of our loons, waterfowl, and many humans. The state has many sanctioned displays open to the public for no charge. I would like to see the town ban fireworks. Dear Selectmen, regarding the public hearing to be held October 30th, 2014, as a concerned resident, I feel it is imperative that an ordinance be enacted as soon as possible to completely ban the use and sale of fireworks within the town of Acton. The reasons for establishing such a fireworks ordinance are the following. Most importantly, it would eliminate the starting of a fire resulting from fireworks, which may destroy both the property of the individual setting off fireworks and any adjacent properties resulting from falling embers. With Acton generally being a wooded rural town, a small fire could quickly develop into a major forest fire, especially if dry and windy conditions exist. This is both a public safety and fire prevention issue that affects the whole town. It would eliminate the excessive and loud noise, which is extremely disruptive to people, domestic animals, and wildlife, causing unnecessary stress to all. As a boater told me, it is easy to see the debris field of used firework tubes lying on the bottom of Mousom Lake. If left to accumulate, the debris field would become another expense the town of Acton would eventually have to assume in order to clean up the lake. If the town of Acton does not adopt a local ordinance to amend the current state law, which allows fireworks every day of the year, would the chemical buildup from fireworks shot over a lake eventually change the pH level or the chemical makeup of a lake and either harm or kill the fish, thus reducing the water quality class of the lake and jeopardize lakefront property values? As always, the misuse or mishandling of fireworks can lead to bodily harm to those individuals setting off the fireworks. If the Selectmen do decide to proceed forward with the creation of a fireworks ordinance, enclosed are copies of the fireworks ordinance for the town of Sanford, York, Wells, Old Orchard Beach, Scarborough, Cumberland, Gorham, Elliott, North Berwick, and Kennebunkport. Please use them as general guidelines when drafting a proposed fireworks ordinance to be presented to the voters at either a special town meeting or an annual town meeting in June 2015. An ordinance has to be at an annual town meeting, so there won't be any special meetings for this. And again, we're just here to discuss it tonight, to get information on whether we should go forward into looking into it further, or whether we should not. So if anybody would like to come up, introduce yourself, please, and give us your opinion.
I'm Bill Lotz. I've lived on Acton Ridge for darn near 40 years now. And the firework noise for a week before 4th of July and a week or two afterwards is incredible. Scares the bejesus out of our dogs, my livestock. the actual fireworks, what I call fireworks, the rockets and stuff, are no big deal from my perspective, because I'm a half mile from the lake, but those boomers, oh my God, they rattle the windows in my house. In generality, I agree completely with those letters that you've read. I'd sure like to see some control. My main concern is those humongous booming noises that exploding fireworks, but I fail to see the benefit to the town to have fireworks, frankly.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Norm Lambert, Covert Drive. Dittos with you as well, Mr. Lotz. It's not just the regular normal hours, it's when you're sleeping really good and you hear the kabooms after midnight, 1 a.m. Again, it could be 100 yards down the lake, or it could be half a mile. When the kabooms go, they do. And again, with your dog, mine does the same thing. We have to tranquilize him. Other than that,
So there's a lot on your lake, too.
Oh, I think it's a lot all the way around, not on Mousom, but I think it's all the way around. And unfortunately, it's not the local folk that do it. It's the ones that come up and they say, hey, we're here, we're gonna raise all kinds of cane and the heck with everyone else. That's my personal philosophy, because I've talked to other folks that feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Pat Stevens. Yeah, I don't think the town should have an ordinance on fireworks.
You don't think
State,
we should, or we should?
I don't think they should.
No.
No, state already has laws on it. And then how are you going to police it if you do? Then what's going to happen then? I think you'd be chasing your tail.
Yeah.
And when fireworks were illegal, there was still plenty of fireworks being shot off. So.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. Anybody else? Paul?
Paul Poyant. I did a little reading up on state website. There are, in fact, as Pat said, there are in fact, state laws in effect. Consumer fireworks, which I gather, we're not talking about something that somebody with a license is firing off, although
Yeah.
possible exception of,
Now the stuff they're selling is the same that they use in professional shows. They've got the M80s that are in them when they go up in the air, so you can buy those right in Sanford.
okay, but those theoretically don't fall within the sphere of consumer fireworks, at least not from what I read. I'm thinking more like, they don't allow anything with fins, they don't even allow bottle rockets, so I can't imagine something with an M80 could be considered consumer fireworks. So perhaps a lot of what we're dealing with is just violations of state law that isn't being enforced. So I concur that if we put in regulations on top of state regulations that aren't being enforced, and none of it is enforced, it's kind of pointless and we're just spinning our wheels. I don't happen to use fireworks. I don't happen to hunt either, but I'm not necessarily, saying that, gee, nobody should hunt because I don't hunt. Everybody has their preferences. I think people who want to use fireworks responsibly should be able to do it. State law says maybe 4 nights out of the year you're allowed to go till 12:30 a.m. and the rest of the time it has to stop at either 8 or 10, I forget which. So obviously the one, where we're up half the night hearing fireworks, that's a violation of state law. So again, enforcement. So I would certainly think and examine fairly closely what the enforcement angle is on what's happening now versus coming up with new laws that the state doesn't cover.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Melanie Brow, Hopper Road. We don't like the fireworks. We have some people in the area, and of course, we live at the base of the mountain, so we get it echoing, and we don't know which direction it's coming from, but my dog goes nuts, and same as, I don't know who said it, we have to tranquilize her sometimes, just to get some sleep. I mean, if they quit at 10 o'clock, that's not a problem. But sometimes it's going on until 11, 12, and several times it's been like early in the morning. So I have a huge issue with that. Also, there are a couple of people that did not show tonight because they do not want retaliation against them. Some of these people are neighbors close to these other people that are shooting off fireworks. They're not here all the time, so I can totally understand that. We live in a wooded area on Hopper Road. If those woods catch fire, volunteer firemen are not going to make it there. So I am totally against it. I think there should be an ordinance. If they don't want to ban it totally in Acton, then put the ordinance, yeah, they can shoot them reasonably 4th of July, maybe check with the fire department. Do they have an open field that they're going to fire them through, or are they going to be shooting over people's houses or into the lakes? That would be my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melody.
Anybody else? No? You guys want to add anything? Oh, we've got Chip. Go ahead.
Chip Vanell, have we had any incidents of fires started by errant fireworks that you guys know?
Not that I know of.
I'm going to agree with Paul and Pat. I think the toughest thing is going to be, if we have some kind of an ordinance, is how you're going to enforce it. It's never been enforced in the past, and they've been going off for years, especially around the 4th of July with the summer people coming up, and, and sometimes on New Year's Eve, which is maybe not as bad because you've got
the
snow
snow,
cover.
yeah.
But, if we can't enforce it, even though we've got a half-time town cop, he's not going to be running around at, midnight trying to find where it came from. If you can't enforce it, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to have it. Maybe some, something on the website for the town explaining what, the state law says you can't do them after 10 o'clock or whatever the state law is, just so that people are aware.
Okay.
Yeah, from my standpoint, the enforcement is probably going to be the hardest part of it. I've got a camp up on Wilson. For the first 20 minutes, yeah, it's kind of nice to watch. After that, I'm done with it. It's, like everyone has said, I've got dogs. They go nuts over the fireworks. You got to do something with them. But I don't know how we're going to enforce it. So we got to, like I said, like Ted said earlier, this is a fact-finding night, and we'll take everything into consideration. We've got to talk some more to our deputy and see where we go.
We did invite Dan to be here tonight, and I talked to him on the phone today. He had to go to training. He worked in Acton until 5 o'clock, and then he had to go to training tonight, so he couldn't make it. His concerns are enforcement. Even if you call up and your neighbor's lighting fireworks, if he pulls in, unless he sees your neighbor lighting one while he pulls in the driveway, he cannot make an arrest because fireworks are legal in Massachusetts. He could have a whole store out on the lawn and match right next to it, but unless he see him light a match to it, if we have an ordinance that says you can't do them, or you can't do them any day except for 4th of July, so he can't make an arrest. If he is able to make an arrest based on the ordinance, the district attorney's office does not enforce ordinances. So that would mean we would have to hire the Acton town lawyer to take it to court. Then we would also have to pay Dan Shaw to go in and testify. So the entire cost of enforcing it would come to the Acton taxpayer, which could get very expensive should they say not guilty and it goes to trial. Then the town of Acton would have to foot that. And then what do? You have a fee for violating the ordinance of, say, what, $250, and then we spend $5,000 on a court case? So enforcing it would be very, very difficult to do. We also looked at tying it in like a burn permit. But the problem with that is because they are legal in the state, with a burn permit, if you don't have a burn permit, then you can get summoned by the forestry department. But because fireworks are legal in the state of Maine, the forestry department could not do a summons. So, if we tied it into the fire danger is high, so we're not going to give you a permit to do fireworks, we couldn't enforce that either unless we went to court with it. So this is just what we found out today. So we're still going to continue to look into it. I like the idea of the state laws being on the webpage. I didn't realize that they had a time limit of when you could do it. I'll talk to Dan again, and if that's the case, then maybe he can enforce that part of it, that if he can find somebody lighting them off at 10 o'clock, then it would be breaking a state law, so then he could make the arrest, and then the district attorney could do the court case, and it wouldn't be any cost to Acton, and we wouldn't need an ordinance that way. So I'll talk to Dan and find out if that's the case. But again, we're going to continue to look into it. If anybody that sees this video would like to put some input in, just send us an email to the town clerk at actonmaine.org. We will consider everything that's written to us, either for or against, and we will come to a decision on whether we want to go into trying to do an ordinance or not. So if there's anybody wants to add anything else before we close? No? All right, we thank you all for coming. We thank you for your input, and we will probably hold another public hearing as soon as we have a lot more information, and hopefully get some information from more taxpayers on whether they would like us to go forward with it or not. A motion?
I move we adjourn.
No, we're going to get out of the public hearing first.
Oh. What do we do?
Close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing?
Yep.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor? Now you can adjourn.
Okay. I move that we adjourn.
Seconded.